Good morning across America. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm Shepard Smith in New York. This is Fox News Channel continuing coverage of what is now Tropical Storm Irene. The National Hurricane Center has just updated us on Irene's strength and direction. It happened during commercial break. It's currently packing maximum sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, which is tropical storm force, headed north-northeast at 26 miles per hour. Irene lost a bit of strength just as it hit New York City, but the storm surge still caused some flooding. The southern tip of Manhattan, water's been lapping up along the sidewalks at Battery Park and the South Street Seaport, and we're told about a foot of water has been coming over the wall in front of the New York Mercantile Exchange, or did at least, where the folks trade gold and oil. We're told that exchange will be open as scheduled tomorrow. One man in trendy Soho neighborhood said he saw a newspaper stand floating down the street. Not the worst of things here, but certainly a picture from the city. Flooding has closed one of the tubes of the Holland Tunnel that connects New York City with Jersey City, New Jersey, and beyond. Hundreds of thousands of people in and around the city of New York have now lost power. At least 4 million total have lost power all up and down the eastern seaboard. Irene is now blamed for killing 12 people in 5 states. That's a new number this hour. Some of the deaths in traffic crashes, others when trees toppled onto cars and homes. And this morning, the president was scheduled to meet again with top members of his cabinet to discuss the federal government's response to Hurricane Irene. First, to our chief meteorologist, Rick Reichmuth, with the latest coordinates from the National Hurricane Center on this tropical storm. Rick, how's it looking?
Well, it's moving pretty quick now, kind of as you'd expect. Still at about 26 miles an hour off to the north-northeast, but the center well to the north of New York City, kind of moving up the Hudson River Valley, and it's going to continue to move on pretty quickly. By 8 o'clock tonight, Shep, we're talking about far northern New Hampshire, the center of it. That means there's still some rain to be had, but for the most part, we're going to be calming down a little bit, especially across kind of the more populated areas. I'm going to back out. Take a look at this picture somebody sent to me on Twitter. That is a look at one of the rain bands moving into North Carolina yesterday. Absolutely spectacular picture. That's the band moving in, that pinwheel thing that you see on the satellite or on the radar picture better. That gives you an idea of the curvature of that, and underneath that, the very heavy rain and the very heavy wind. So these pictures coming in on Twitter, good. Great information also, I tell you. Been hearing reports of a lot of trees down well inland, about 130 miles inland, trees down, causing power outages and falling on people's homes and cars and such. So a lot of damage. And now all of this area that you see in this maroon, flash flooding continuing, and it's extending now across parts of Massachusetts. Actually, that's up towards Vermont and upstate New York. Very significant flooding going on. Some areas will likely see another 4 to 5 inches of rain on top of what's already fallen, and that means the Northeast is just going to be in a world of hurt for about the next 4 to 5 hours as you go in towards New England. But the heavier of the rain that we've been seeing across coastal areas, that's mostly gone. We'll see a little bit of rain towards Boston and Portland, but it's really far northern New England and heading into Canada that we're going to be dealing with the majority of this as we move over to the next few hours, Shep.
Rick Reichmuth in the Weather Center. We'll get back to you. First, though, a Fox News alert. A fire in the center of Manhattan. We're at 1211 Avenue of the Americas, or 6th Avenue. This is right up the street at 1290 Avenue of the Americas. Right-hand side of the street, about 51st Street and 6th Avenue. It's my understanding that this isn't just some sort of exercise, but it really is a fire in the basement of an office building there. We don't know extent, but we can tell you that there's basically nobody in Manhattan, or nobody in Midtown Manhattan. So we have no reports of any injuries there. But quite a scene in the center of 6th Avenue as New York's bravest and New York's finest have come out to try to get a handle on this situation. Normally, this would cause a traffic nightmare. Not today, because, well, there's no traffic. We're expecting an update from the Metro Transit Authority in a short time from now. The word was that all New York City subways and buses would be closed tomorrow. I suppose it's possible that they could run some limited bus service, but they have to inspect all of the tracks on all of the subway system, all of the train tracks all over the 5 boroughs of New York before they can open them up. And they have to do that during daytime hours. So tomorrow they'll have to bring in workers to do that while somehow New Yorkers are supposed to get to work. 7 million people or so take one form of public transportation or another between the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, the bus system, the subway systems, the Metro North Railroad, the ferry lines, all of the rest. None of that scheduled to be open tomorrow, but we're expecting something new from the Transit Authority in just a moment. We've been watching A quick look at the radar that's coming to us now from Fox 25, which is Fox News for Boston and the metropolitan area there. So you can see Providence right in the middle, Chatham out in the islands, Hartford, Springfield over to the left, Bridgeport over to the left. So they're still getting some pretty significant rain. Rainfall totals 5 to 6 inches in that area around there. And you look up to the north there, Manchester and Nashua, home of the great Jay Wallace, where they are expecting 4 or 5 inches of rain. And some of the badness is still for them. And you can see that area between Boston and Springfield there. Very heavy rain, 6 to 8 inches of rain expected in that area. Newport, Rhode Island is not noted on the map at the moment, but that's where our correspondent Molly Line is. Molly is New England-based for us, and Molly, you're getting blown around a little still. How is it?
We are still getting a little blown around. The rain is cut off, at least for now. But one of the big concerns that the Rhode Island officials have is that because the event is now downgraded, that people will not take things seriously, and they'll get out here to take a look at things, to come check out the big waves, and that a tragedy will happen because of that. We actually have seen some bike riders out, people bringing their kids down to check things out. And the concern is that because there are a lot of trees coming down, live power lines will be down. Cranston, Rhode Island, for instance, having a big problem with power outages. Across the state right now, there are about 140 or so thousand people without power. The crews are actively out there trying to get things turned back on. As you can see here behind me, there's some folks out walking their dogs. So there are some folks that are out checking things out, and that's the big concern authorities have here, is that people are not taking things seriously and that could be hurt. So they're asking people to stay inside and to stay out of this storm. A little further to the north, you'd mentioned you guys are keeping a close eye on Boston. They've shut down the trains there, the MBTA. They want to keep people inside. They want things to get back to normal on Monday. So right now we're just keeping an eye on things here. The waves are rocking. We know we've spoken with a number of fishermen out there. This is their livelihood that's on the line. A lot of folks are pleasure boaters and they'll bring their boats in, but these guys, they want to be able to get back out and get back to work as soon as they can. There are some folks actually on their boats today riding out this storm. They're ready to batten down and chase things if anything gets loose. The real concern, they say, is that later on, as the high tide comes in again, that these boats will rise with the high tide and could come crashing down on the dock or crash into other boats that get loose. So there is still a big concern here in the state of Rhode Island. A lot of folks looking towards their livelihood, and the authorities hoping that no one gets injured while they're out here checking out what is certainly still a big event. Shep?
Molly Line in Newport, Rhode Island. I want to get to Marion, Massachusetts now. This is a live picture actually in the heart of Boston, coming to us from Fox 25, showing it's still a very rainy day on the Boston Harbor there. Museum of Science that we closed today. And these are live pictures, Marion, Massachusetts, where, man alive, it is rocking out on the water today. These pictures courtesy of WBZ Television, our network news service affiliate in the Boston metropolitan area. And there's a swish pan underway to give us another view of the boats over here. It is rocky and going to continue to be rocky for the better part of the day. They've got a few more hours of this to go. In and around the Boston area, so all of Rhode Island, for the vast majority of New England as well, as this storm continues to just steamroll its way toward the Canadian border. Burlington, Vermont, up at the top of the screen, starting to get some pretty bad rains as well. So we've gone from the Carolinas all the way up the Jersey Shore, past New York, up past Albany, now up past through New England and working our way toward Canada. Jonathan Hunt's been watching it all from one of the areas just suburban New York City on Long Island, and it's been a mess out there, and Jonathan's picture appears to be frozen at the moment, unless Jonathan is stiller than I've ever seen. He has a special guest with him. Jonathan, take it away.
Hey, Shep. Yeah, I'm with Ed Mangano, who is the Nassau County Chief Executive now. Ed, we seem to be through the worst, but how bad was the worst?
Pretty bad. We have 120,000 residents without electricity, without power, 20 transmission lines down. We have downed trees, we have flooding, roads are impassable. So we have dangerous conditions out there. People should stay in their homes until we can get the all clear. But we weathered the storm without any reported injuries so far. That's very important. People followed the plan, and we got through this without injuries to the safety of our residents, and that's the primary concern.
So one thing we do know, though, Mangano. Just looking out here on Broadway, the main thoroughfare that runs right along the ocean here in Long Beach, a lot of people, a lot of homes have been badly flooded.
Exactly. I mean, flooding of homes and businesses is significant here. We're under an assessment. FEMA's deploying an assessment team as we speak. So it's important that we do that task. Primary task, keep the public safe. Next task now is to return us to normalcy, and that's what's underway.
And there's going to be a lot of dollars worth of damage here. No figures yet, obviously, but it's pretty bad out there.
Yeah, millions of dollars worth of damage sustained in this storm.
All right, Ed Mangano, County Executive for Nassau. Thanks very much, Ed, for joining us. So, Shep, we are through the worst, as Ed was saying. You can see the waves are still pretty big out there, but they've definitely calmed down a lot. The tide, we've passed high tide now, although emergency management executives also telling us that they are still concerned about tonight's high tide and that bringing in more water. We were talking to Ed about the flooding. Pretty much, it's hard to believe that every single ground floor apartment and ground floor of every house out on Broadway did not flood. The floodwaters came through here around 7 a.m. this morning, rushed underneath this boardwalk where I'm standing right now. We are in at least 2 feet of water, I would say, in the lobby and the basement of this hotel. Every building along here will have suffered something akin to that, I would think, if they weren't thoroughly sandbagged, and even then it would have been difficult for them to avoid significant flooding. Ed was just telling me as well that a couple of the buildings he was out at right there on Broadway, that main oceanfront thoroughfare, the flood line appeared to be up as high as 6 or 8 feet. Now that's probably waves of it rather than a consistent height of the water, but it was getting up pretty high there. So when they start counting the damage, it is going to be a lot of dollars worth of damage. As Ed was saying, probably millions of dollars here alone, and that's a story that it looks will be told right across the 7 million population of Long Island, Shep.
Jonathan Hunt live for us out on Long Island, the first of the beach communities. As in Boston, they're watching the local weather, and the storm is coming ashore there. Let's listen to Bill Reed from the National Hurricane Center talking to Fox 25 in Boston.
Yeah, because it's going to take a while for those rivers to respond to all this rain, because the drainage is going to take a while. If you would for a moment, Bill, could you talk to us a little bit now about the speed that Irene is moving away and what that means for a potential storm surge for us later today? Kevin and I have been a little concerned about the next high tide cycle for the folks down in Buzzards Bay, because it looked like at that time we might have more of a southwesterly component of the wind still piling up some of that water. It looks like we may have still somewhat of a concern at that time, but perhaps now that Irene is moving more quickly, the concern is not as great as it looked even just a few hours ago. What's your take on that?
We looked at it fairly carefully. We're going to keep the same expectations in there for exactly what you said. With the center up in here this evening, you're going to have a west or southwest wind, and that forces water up those bays. And until that threat is certainly not until it's gone, I think I want to keep that threat in there as a possibility.
Yeah, a definite possibility, and we've experienced a little bit of a storm surge this morning on the front end of Irene with that strong east-southeasterly wind. We've actually had some of our stronger wind gusts as well with some of the squall lines and some of these tropical rain
Some
bands
local coverage out of Boston. A lot of public schools being closed tomorrow. Derry, New Hampshire, Eagle Heights Academy. A lot of local coverage going on there. We've got some national news to get to in just a moment. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is preparing for a news conference scheduled to begin just moments from now, and I think we have a podium to show you where that's going down. We'll take you to FEMA in just a minute. And also Fox 5 New York watching Long Branch, New Jersey, where we're seeing a lot of inland trouble. You can see roofs off buildings and trees down in streets. We're seeing new coverage, new pictures of this coming out of Brooklyn, New York as well. Again, this is Long Branch, New Jersey. As we're able to get crews to more areas, we're able to see that the damage has been more significant in some areas than maybe we even anticipated, especially in the inland areas. Continuing coverage of what is now Tropical Storm Irene throughout the day and the night. This is Fox News Channel on satellite and cable across America and around the world.